Here's what you're supposed to think about Phil Dunphy. He's the fun one. The magic tricks, the trampoline, the real estate puns nobody else laughs at. He loves his wife loudly and without embarrassment. He cries at commercials. He's the dad who never really grew up, and the show wants you to find that adorable. And for 11 seasons, most people did. But here's what nobody talks about. Phil Dunphy spent 11 seasons performing happiness for an audience of people who never once asked him if he was okay. The relentless enthusiasm, the magic, the Clive Bixby alter ego, the way he lights up when anyone pays him a compliment. None of that is who Phil is. That's what Phil built to survive in a family that consistently treated him like a lovable inconvenience. Because Phil Dunphy isn't just a funny character who gets too excited about things. He's a man with a wound that never healed, a dream he buried alive, and a marriage where he invented a fake personality just to feel desired. Let's start with Jay. For 11 years, Phil chased Jay Pritchett's approval like it was the last thing on earth worth having, not occasionally, relentlessly, with the kind of desperate consistency that stops being funny the moment you pay real attention to it. The show frames this as a comedic dynamic. Jay thinks Phil is soft. Phil wants to impress him. Jay resists. Repeat for a decade. The audience feels warm when Jay occasionally, reluctantly lets something nice slip out. But Phil doesn't want Jay's approval the way a guy wants his father-in-law to like him. He wants it the way a kid wants a parent to see him. That's a completely different thing. Think about the iPad scene in season 1. Phil gets Jay an iPad. Opening weekend, he waited in line. The only thing he wants is for Jay to acknowledge that he is thoughtful, not gratitude, just confirmation he did something well. And Jay can't do it. He compliments the gift by talking about the gift. Phil stands there smiling, absorbing the half-win, talking himself into being satisfied with it. He does this his entire run on the show. Jay gives him 60%, and Phil always finds a way to be grateful for it, because 60% from Jay is more validation than he knows how to ask for. Now, here's the moment my entire reading of Phil shifted. Walt Klezak, Phil's elderly neighbor, gruff and private, who openly dislikes people. But Walt actually sees Phil. He respects him. He tells him directly that he is a good man, and he treats him like a capable adult whose presence matters. And Phil, who shrugs off Jay's non-compliments like it is nothing, completely falls apart over this guy. He cries. He does the man's yard work. The show plays it as a funny bit. Phil gets attached, classic Phil. But it is not a funny bit. It is a tell. Phil found a father figure in a stranger because the actual father figure in his life wouldn't play the role. He had to go next door to get what should have been available at Sunday dinner for 11 years. And when Walt dies in season 3, Phil's grief isn't just about Walt. It's grief about every version of that relationship he never got to have. The next wound isn't a villain's fault, which is what makes it hardest to sit with. Claire loves Phil, completely, genuinely. But Modern Family spent 11 seasons treating Phil as the lovable screw-up Claire has to manage, and the show never once acknowledged that as a problem because it was too busy being funny. Phil Dunphy is not incompetent. He builds a successful real estate career and sustains it for a decade. He raises 3 kids who turn out fundamentally decent. He's more emotionally present than most television fathers, and frankly, most real ones. He is not the problem in that house. And yet the family's default is that Phil needs to be supervised, not because the evidence supports it, but because the hierarchy got established early and nobody ever revised it. The Clive Bixby thing is the cleanest proof. Phil and Claire do this recurring bit where they pretend to be strangers at a hotel bar, and Phil becomes this suave, confident character. The show wants you to find it adorable. But ask yourself, why does Phil Dunphy need an alternate identity to feel attractive and capable in his own marriage? Clive Bixby isn't a fun date night game. He's the version of Phil that never got told he needs adult supervision. And the fact that Claire responds to Clive with a warmth she sometimes withholds from regular Phil is the part I genuinely cannot shake. But none of it lands as hard as what happened to Phil's actual dream. Phil wanted to be a performer. He was a cheerleader in college, which the show uses as a recurring punchline for 11 straight seasons. The thing he was genuinely good at, the thing he loved, becomes a source of family embarrassment. Jay hears the word cheerleader and hears weakness. The kids cringe. Even Claire has moments where she would rather the subject not come up. So Phil absorbed all of that and decided that part of himself was a liability. He bottled it into a hobby. Magic tricks at the dinner table. Card tricks nobody asked for. Everything that used to be a real aspiration compressed into bits his family tolerates with barely concealed exhaustion. And here is the specific detail that makes it worse. His father, Frank, is also a performer, a showman who entertains his way through hard things. When Phil's mother died, Frank got a girlfriend almost immediately and started laughing again. Phil could not handle it. He felt something close to betrayal. The show plays this as Phil being overly sensitive, but I think Phil was watching his father perform happiness through pain and recognizing the trick, because he had been running the same routine for years without knowing it. Seeing his dad do it and hating it in his dad was the closest Phil ever came to seeing himself clearly. He did not take the lesson. He went right back to the magic tricks. Because when you have been the happy one for long enough, there is no other character left to play. Phil Dunphy is not a sad character. He loves his family loves him, and the life he built is genuinely good. But Modern Family asked us to laugh at Phil for 11 seasons without ever asking us to really look at him. Every moment of vulnerability became a punchline. Every big feeling became a bit. The show used his emotional openness as fuel and never let anyone say out loud that the funniest person in the room was also the loneliest. Phil wasn't miserable the way people picture misery. He was miserable the way cheerful people get miserable, quietly, in the margins, in the gap between the person he was performing and the person he actually was. In the Walt relationship he couldn't explain. In the magic tricks nobody asked for. In the Clive Bixby nights that felt more like him than any regular Tuesday in the Dunphy kitchen. In 11 years of Jay's 60% that he told himself every single time was enough. The show gave us a character with a genuine interior life and decided his interior life was the joke. Phil deserved better than that. And honestly, so did we.